Welcome back. All right, so it is the quarter point of the National Hockey League's 2025-2026 season tonight. 318 games are in the books so far out of the 1,312 games that are scheduled for this season. Technically, the quarter mark is 328 games. Since there's 12 games tonight, we will mosey past the quarter point, and we will be into the second quarter as of that 11th and 12th game tonight. So I wanted to do the grading, and I wanted to explain the grading a bit, because there's always this massive debate about who I hate or who I'm harder on than others. And so I want to explain this. An A is a team that's killing it, vastly exceeding expectations and just playing really, really well. A B is better than expected or just really solid all-around record. A C plus is okay, they're playing all right, around where they were expected to be. C is kind of average as expected, not necessarily a huge surprise one way or the other. C minus, a little worse than what we might have expected. Maybe not living up to expectations, maybe just a rough record overall. And a D, not measuring up or a poor first quarter just in general. There are no Fs on the board for today because the season's not done. The Fs come out at the end of the year. Every now and then I'll see that you should give that team an F, but it's not the end of the year. You don't fail somebody after the first semester and go, yeah, you're done. You're out. Get out. So here we are. I won't put the E's on the board either, because anytime that I use E's, it drives people nuts. But I will also say this. I don't think there's a team in the league that would qualify for an E. When I was in school, 40% and below was an E. 41 to 49% was a D. So just saying, we did have E's on report cards. I only saw one on mine ever, and it was just awful. I was absolutely mortified. But anyways, so I put this in order by the standings, Colorado through Calgary, and we will go through and we will grade the teams from Colorado through Calgary. Colorado's a good place to start because obviously for Colorado it's an A. The Colorado Avalanche have one regulation loss. If I give them anything less than an A, it would be incorrect. Even though grading is not necessarily rights and wrongs 100%, but yeah, that they have to be an A. Carolina, are they better than expected? Solid record, killing it. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna say an A grade for Carolina as well. Carolina's done pretty darn well overall, and they are first in their division. And I think the best days are still ahead for them because that blue line should get healthy at some point. The fact that they're still getting wins and points while they're dealing with a lot of injuries on that blue line. It is just remarkable to watch. New Jersey. All right, so New Jersey has, and what we've got on the board here too is number of games played. So I'll go back to Colorado. 19 games played. They have 31 wins, or 31 points and 12 regulation wins. Carolina, 20 games played, 28 points, 9 regulation wins. New Jersey, 19 games, 27 points, and 8 regulation wins. I would say for New Jersey, I mean, they're only 1 point behind Carolina. And I'd say, yeah, A grade for New Jersey. Sure, I'm going to be as nice about this as possible. And obviously the A grade should be the ones right at the top. So New Jersey's had a really remarkable first quarter. And obviously it's going to get tested as injuries to key players are a thing. But yeah, the New Jersey Devils, they just got Dougie Hamilton back, so maybe it'll all end up working out for them. Anaheim. I can't give Anaheim less than an A, can I? Anaheim's played 20 games. They have 27 points. 9 regulation wins for them. So, yeah, this is the easy part. This is the enjoyable part. And this is where fan bases will be watching going, yep, cool, all right, awesome. Fans of the other teams might not be all that happy, but can you argue with the A's? I don't know that you can. Dallas also has 27 points in 20 games, 9 regulation wins. Been very good lately. I'm kind of thinking about a B for them, but I'm not. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say fine. We'll throw an A at them as well. These 5 teams at the top, pretty impressive records, and there's only 1 point difference between Carolina and Dallas. So while we talk a lot about the East and how tight everything is, really at the top of the standings, things are pretty close too. Outside of, it looks like Colorado could run away with it. If Colorado can maintain this, I don't know that they can, and I'm waiting to see how they respond when there's some kind of setback. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't. But at some point, there's going to be some kind of setback where Colorado loses, say, 3 or 4 in a row. We'll see how they respond when that happens, but it hasn't happened yet. Detroit, I'm going to say Detroit with 25 points in 20 games. Regulation wins at 9. I'm going to give them a B. I would say above expectations, yes. They got off to a really, really good start, and then they've had their issues, and now they seem to be getting it back together again. So I'm going to give them a B overall. Pretty solid numbers. Winnipeg, 19 games, 24 points, 10 regulation wins. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, and their record's still pretty good. So 5 games over 500. So it'd be 5 times 4. It'd still be over 100 points. Projected anyways. So I don't see how the Jets wouldn't be a B. See, the first column's great. The first column's where everything's happy. Everybody's, happy with the grades. Everything's wonderful. It's when we get over here that there will definitely be some consternation and some discussion. I should make sure I close that B up because otherwise it looks like a 13. And if you grade a team and you give them a 13, there will be questions. I got my grade is a 13, but don't we do letter grades? Yeah, but you got a 13. You sure you're a teacher? So Pittsburgh also has 24 points in 19 games, 10 regulation wins, but nobody expected Pittsburgh to be here. Nobody expected Pittsburgh to be anything other than rebuilding for the most part. There were some Penguins fans that believed in them, but in general, I'm going to say an A for Pittsburgh because they're overachieving, because they're way above where we expected them to be. Chicago, can it be anything less than an A for Chicago? I don't think that it can. What an amazing first column. Let's just go ahead and take a moment to appreciate this. The Chicago Blackhawks, 24 points in 19 games, 9 regulation wins. It's been remarkable to watch. Bedard, it clicked. Year 3. I don't know how many years on this channel I have pointed out that superstar players, that third season's where they really figured out. You got your rookie year where you're just learning, your sophomore year where that slump can happen and you might have some more trouble, and then that third year it clicks. And it's remarkable to watch. I could do a video on that at some point too, on the players that third year is where everything kicks in. I could just look at like Hall of Fame players and big star players and whatnot. Anyway, moving into the second column. So also with 24 points in 19 games is Vegas. They have 8 regulation wins. They've had a lot of injury problems as well. I'm going to give them a B. Make sure it's attached. But yeah, I would say a B grade for Vegas. Close to a C+. Close to kind of adjacent to the C+. I might even go as far as to say maybe Vegas should be a B-. So I know I don't have a B- over here, but people can figure out what a B- is, right? No? Okay. The Islanders, 24 points in 20 games, 8 regulation wins. I would say that the Islanders, absolutely, yeah, I would say a B grade works for them as well. I think that the Islanders have achieved more than most people expected. I did look back on the video I did before the season started on what the channel's predictions were in terms of where teams would be at. So these expectations I discussed are both the expectations of mine and where the channel had everybody. And the Islanders weren't expected to be a playoff team. The Kings, 24 points in 20 games, 6 regulation wins. The LA Kings have been excellent on the road. They have had their struggles at home. I would say overall, yep, I would give a C+ to the Kings. So as I said, okay, around expected. I would say for the LA Kings, that works. I think that they're basically around expected. They're playing okay. Overall, very, very good on the road. Not very good at home. So it kind of balances out to, it's not bad. Get better at home, though. Minnesota's had a good run recently. It's definitely helped by Wallstead. My gosh, Wallstead. I would give the team a C+. I would give Wallstead an A+++++. Just amazing to watch Wallstead. And the first thing, and I will say I did this last night during the games that were being played. The Oilers are, struggling to keep the puck out of their net. And I just looked back at the draft where Wallstead was taken, and I was like, right, yeah, the Oilers traded that pick. They traded down, and they drafted Bourgault, and they didn't draft Wallstead. Like, where would Edmonton be if they drafted Wallstead? Well, Minnesota's happy they didn't draft Wallstead. But where would the Oilers be? They'd have Wallstead and Skinner likely as their tandem. They might be in decent shape and goal right now. Boston, Boston, 24 points in 22 games, 8 regulation wins. It does feel like they're coming down off of what was a good run. But I would say overall, Boston, a B. They weren't expected to be in the running for a playoff spot necessarily. I know management was expecting it, but I didn't think it was going to happen. A lot of other people didn't think it was going to happen. The channel had them predicted at 7th in the division, so they're nowhere near 7th right now. They may eventually get there. But at this point, they haven't. So, yeah, I'll give Boston a B. Seattle, 19 games, 23 points, 6 regulation wins. I'd give Seattle a C+. Yeah, solid. A solid C+. They're getting points. They're getting points where they need them. 5 overtime or shootout loss points for Seattle so far. They're not the only team that's got a bunch of overtime or shootout loss points, because this is a league now where almost every game seems to want to go to overtime. Last night, though, we only had 1 out of 4, and I think the night before it was 2 out of 8. So I'm trying to keep track of this. Like, okay, is the percentage dropping? It feels like it's dropping off a bit. But yeah, Seattle, it's helped them, right? And so I can't be upset with a team for trying to get games into overtime to get those points, right? Montreal, 23 points in 19 games, 5 regulation wins. Overall, I mean, they made the playoffs last year, so I can't stand here and say, well, it's been a huge surprise that they've been good. I think that was kind of what was expected. So I'm going to give Montreal a compliment. The C+ is a compliment. It'd be an A or a B if they weren't expected to be here, since they were expected to be in the running for or in the playoffs anyways. I will give them a C+ for maintaining that, and they've had a rougher time of it over the last, I'd say, 10 games than they did before that, but everybody has that valley they have to go through. Utah, 23 points in 20 games, 7 regulation wins. If this was being done after 10 games, first off, people would be like, 10 games? You can't grade teams on 10 games. Give it 20. It would have been an A. But now I feel like for Utah, honestly, C, as expected. Overall, it ends up as expected. Before the season started, Utah was the sexy pick as the team that was going to break through and make the playoffs. And right now it looks like they could, but they're a little bit below the playoff line. I'm not going to penalize them on that and give them a C- or anything, but yeah, about a C. They're definitely a team, though, that would have got an A if I'd done the grade early. Montreal, too. Tampa, 22 points in 19 games, 8 regulation wins. I'm going to give Tampa a C+ because of just the sheer amount of injuries that they've gone through, and key injuries, too. And they've still managed to keep a good record. Plus, they had the really rough start to the season, and it looked like they were slow and old, and then they went on a nice run. So I'm going to give them a C+ rather than anything lower than that, and we'll see where they're at the halfway mark. So that's the second column. So no A's in the second column. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 B's altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 C pluses. Then there's a B minus there too, just because why not a B minus? So we move into the third column. You've got Ottawa, 22 points in 19 games, 6 regulation wins. I'm gonna say for Ottawa a C. Not really taking that next step yet. There's still obviously lots of time left for them to do it. But Ottawa at this point, yeah, I'd go with the C grade for them. The Washington Capitals, 22 points in 20 games for them, 9 regulation wins. Better lately. I would say a C for Washington for how they've played over the last week, comparatively speaking with prior to that. So yeah, it's right around where we probably would have expected them to be. Maybe a little bit worse than expected. I'm half tempted to say C-, but I'll be nice. I'll make it a C. For Columbus, 22 points in 20 games for them as well, 6 regulation wins. And the dreaded C will be used here as well. Still, obviously, in the hunt for a playoff spot, as is almost everybody in that conference, until some of those teams in that top 8 get hot and they start to at least widen things out a little bit. Maybe dragging 1 or 2 teams below the playoff line with them, but it shouldn't stay this tight for the whole season. But who knows? Maybe it will. But yeah, Columbus gets the C. Rangers, 22 points in 21 games, 7 regulation wins. That home record. So the road record's quite good. The home record leads me to say a C- because I had expected the Rangers to have a bounce back season, which they haven't quite had. I had definitely not expected them to get shut out so much at home, and their road record keeps them from getting the dreaded D grade from me today. So C minus for the New York Rangers. I think they're a better team than this, but I'm saying I think because maybe I dramatically overrated them, which is fine. The Oilers, 22 points in 22 games, 4 regulation wins so far. Maybe it's the Stanley Cup hangover that's just not leaving them behind. Maybe they're just, mired in whatever malaise they've got and they'll pull themselves out of it. But I would say for the Oilers, I don't want to do a D grade on this one. I don't think it's necessarily a fail, but I will say a C minus for the Oilers. They were expected to be much better than a 500 team 22 games into the season. And they're not going on the expected run at this point in time. Tonight they're in Tampa. That's an excellent test for them to see if they can, bounce back after that embarrassing loss against Buffalo. The Philadelphia Flyers, 21 points in 18 games, 4 regulation wins. I would say for Philadelphia, C plus, because they are a little bit better than expected. So this is where I come back to this. Okay, around expected. I would say a little bit above, C plus. So we'll go there. And if they can find some more goals, if they can find some more consistency, they could find themselves in the playoffs once April rolls around. So, Philadelphia for me would be a C plus. Florida's a tough one. They don't have Tkachuk. They don't have Barkov. Those are major pieces that are missing. 21 points in 19 games. Here's a key thing. They have 9 regulation wins. Regulation wins I've got on the board because that's your tiebreaker to make the playoffs. They've got that tiebreaker on most of the teams they're chasing. So, with that in mind, I can't give them a failing grade, obviously. I would say considering the injuries and everything, I'll go with a C. I'll say around where expected, considering the loss of Barkov, Tkachuk, and others. I would say right around where they would have been expected to be. They have 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. But I would say in terms of the expectation coming into this year, I think most of us expected them to have some struggles with key guys out and so many guys that are out. So, they're right around where we would have expected. San Jose, 21 points in 20 games. They've only got 4 regulation wins, but I think they've got 9 wins overall. I honestly think a B works for San Jose. So all the hate comments come in now. But San Jose is well above what was expected of them this year. They were expected to still probably be 32nd overall. I remember discussions of, I guess McKenna's going to go to the Sharks too. Sharks don't really need McKenna. If San Jose bottoms out from here and they go to the bottom and get McKenna, I don't think they're going to complain. If they win a draft lottery and get McKenna, I don't think they're going to complain. Everybody else would, but they wouldn't. So, I will give them a B. Celebrini is just dragging this team to respectability, as is the goaltending of Askarov. So, that's your third column, C, 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 C minus, C minus, C plus, C, and then the B grade for San Jose, as I explained. I hope this makes sense to people, and there's less, I can't believe he's got this team with this grade and this team. People just skip to the end. Toronto, 20 points in 20 games, 6 regulation wins. I would say they're not measuring up. I would say a D grade for Toronto. They've got to be better than this. It just feels like there's a lot of players that have had their struggles and just they're not the same team they were last year, nowhere near. I had expected the loss of Mitch Marner to maybe affect them in the regular season, but this is insane. Although I may have said a couple of times when they lose games, I guess you can't lose in Game 7 in the first round if you don't make the playoffs. So, victory. But obviously, the pressure on Toronto is to at least make the playoffs. So, it will be interesting to see how much longer it takes before maybe some big changes are on the way. Vancouver, 20 points in 21 games, 5 regulation wins. I didn't expect a lot from Vancouver. I would say that overall, I'm going to give the team a C minus. There's been a lot of injuries that have caused problems, and those injuries have caused a lot of guys to get called up from Abbotsford. So Abbotsford's, last I looked, is, I think, second from the bottom in the AHL standings. I think Utica was the only team below them. Man, what is it with Utica? But, the Flames, the Canucks, C minus. Just see that Flames logo, and there it is. But I'd give the Canucks a C minus to this point in the season. Buffalo, 18 points in 20 games, 5 regulation wins. What did we expect though from Buffalo this year? I don't know that I could give this team a passing grade though. This has gone on for too long. I demand change. So the D stands for demand. The D stands for Adams. Get him gone if that's the problem. And if Kevin Adams isn't the problem as general manager, figure it out. Please, for the love of everything that's holy, figure it out. Because it's got to turn around for them at some point. It has to. There's so many teams that have come and gone from the playoffs multiple times since the last time Buffalo was in there. So it's got to be Buffalo's turn sometime. St. Louis, 17 points in 20 games, 6 regulation wins. And I would say a grade of D for the St. Louis Blues. At the very least, the expectation was they'd be in the mix for that number 2 wildcard spot. And they're really not in the mix for that number 2 wildcard spot right now. Getting Jake Neighbors back tonight could help. But to this point, I would say that the D grade would work for the St. Louis Blues. Nashville, 16 points in 20 games, 4 regulation wins. But they've got points. And I would say this. I would say for Nashville, they had a decent start to the season. I'm going to give them a C minus. I don't think this team is going to get on any kind of a run or get close to the playoffs. Word has it that they're open for business, and we could see a lot of players on the market from Nashville, which is brilliant. I think if you're the general manager that declares you're open for business first, you're going to get trade offers. You might get trade offers that when there's other teams that declare they're open for business, maybe those trade offers won't be quite as frequent because there's other options. At this point, Nashville would be the option. So we'll see what Barry Trotz does with the team, but I would say a C minus. The Flames, 15 points in 22 games, 5 regulation wins. On the one hand, we knew that the Flames weren't likely to be a playoff team. But last season, the Flames were on the cusp of being a playoff team, just lost that tiebreaker against St. Louis. So St. Louis gets the D grade. Does Calgary get that as well? Wolf's numbers haven't been in the region they were last year. I think, honestly, that's understandable. It is Wolf's second year in the NHL. Sophomore slumps don't just happen to skaters. It can happen with goaltenders too, and we know that goaltenders are voodoo. So, not measuring up. It is part of the plan, though, in Calgary. I still think this is part of the plan, is to, keep things as they are, see if things get better, and if they don't, okay. Well, you got a really good shot at getting McKenna or one of the other top prospects in this year's draft. By finishing last, they can't draft any lower than third. And the top 3 in this year's draft are considered very strong competitors. Very, very good athletes, excellent hockey players. So no matter where Calgary drafts, if they finish at the bottom of the standings, they're going to get an excellent player. So the fact this is not on purpose, I don't want to say on purpose, but it's kind of part of the plan, I think, is, well, if it doesn't work out, 5 regulation wins. They have 1 more regulation win than San Jose. 1 more regulation win than the Oilers, too. They're 7 points back of the Oilers, but it is just one of those interesting little noteworthy things. I will begrudgingly leave it as kind of like an in-between. In terms of the results, a D. But in terms of the expectation, a C minus. So to me, maybe the Flames are a little worse than expected. They are at the bottom of the standings, so the D grade works there. So you guys can let me know your thoughts in terms of the grades and on what grades you'd give teams. Keeping in mind that this is just my scale, my grading method, and I don't expect it to be the same as everybody else's, which I think works. Works for me personally. If it doesn't work for others, that's okay. The jersey I'm wearing is actually my Back to the Future jersey that I got for $50 from Geeky Jerseys. They keep having these flash sales, and I'm just like, $50, I can do that. It's good quality stuff. So yeah, so it's my Back to the Future. And since I'm talking about expectations, prognostication, and how those predictions turned out, well, it's kind of like a past and present and looking to the future kind of thing. So Back to the Future. And it matches my THG hat. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And we'll be back at the halfway mark of the season to discuss it again then. That being said, I'm done for now. I will talk to you again soon.